The following quote is attributed to a Scottish history professor named Alexander Tytler in 1787. He said, "The average age of the world's greatest civilizations from the beginning of history has been about 200 years. During those 200 years, these nations always progressed through the following sequence. They went from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, and then from abundance to complacency, from complacency to apathy, from apathy to dependency, and from dependency back to bondage." I thought that we should get an update on the state of our nation as we slide down the slippery slope from independence to dependency. While we were hunkered down for the past 4 months, sheltering in place, making masks, social distancing, wiping down surfaces with Lysol, and daily watching the COVID-19 death stats on TV, it turns out the globalists were very busy. They've been working on their new world, their one world order. During the first week of June, while we weren't paying any attention to it, the World Economic Forum, made up of 3,000 millionaires and billionaires, met in a virtual meeting and unveiled an elaborate website featuring something called the Great Reset. If you want to look that up, it's at www.weforum.org/Great Reset. On June the 3rd, 2020, in Geneva, Switzerland, a guy named Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and also His Royal Highness Charles, Prince of Wales, announced that the global health crisis has laid bare the unsustainability of our old system in terms of social cohesion, and the lack of equal opportunity and inclusiveness, and the lack of care for our planet. This Great Reset is commitment to jointly and urgently build the foundations of an economic and social system for a more fair, sustainable, and resilient future. So while they keep referring to the COVID-19 pandemic as a crisis, they also keep calling it an opportunity to remake a better world. They say when you face global problems like global pandemics, worldwide economic depression, nations going trillions of dollars in debt, systemic racism, trade imbalances, inequalities in education, healthcare, communications, and income, and of course global climate change, there is no way that any single nation, no, not even the United States of America, can fix these problems. No, we need global solutions. And by uniting together under the governance of the United Nations, we can save our planet and we can transform our world. Now again, if you'll go to that website and look up Great Reset, you'll see very sophisticated plans for how they plan to fix all the problems of the world. These solutions to the world's problems are presented in a circular diagram. And around the circle, there are 53 major transformations, as they call them, that the World Economic Forum has planned. And if you click on any one of those 53 labels, there appears another circle with dozens of plans needed to fix each one of these problems. But I'll give you a few just to give you an idea of where we're headed with this. One of them is digital currency. It means cash is soon to go away. We're going to be a digital currency all around the planet. And of course, the digital currency will be connected by something called blockchain. Blockchain technology will be able to track and save every transaction of every person in the world. Yes, the United Nations will know whether you pick Pepsi or Coke, but they'll be able to keep up with all your purchases. There will be artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, where every electronic appliance in your home will be transmitting data to Big Brother at the United Nations. It's already happening now in a lot of cases in our homes that we're not aware of, but soon, with the advent of 5G, which is just around the corner, they will enhance this data collection. They have a tab for urbanization, or moving everybody out of the country to smart grid cities. They have a tab for international travel and tourism, also known as immigration and a world without borders. They have digital identification, where everybody on the planet will be identified using some form of biometrics that they have not unveiled yet. There will be, of course, universal health care and vaccinations for everyone. Climate change, they're talking about the decarbonization of energy. No longer will there be any gas or oil. It's going to all be new, modern, environmentally friendly energy. They also have a tab for control of the environment and natural resources. They plan to regulate air, land, water. They will be regulating. Had a tab called the future of food. No meat. It will look like meat, but it's not meat. They plan to fix systemic racism and also to go mainstream with the LGBTQ plus agenda. They even had an article on their website that explains, they said scientifically, how cities that embrace LGBTQ lifestyles recover more quickly from COVID than anybody else. And of course, did I mention taxation? Yes, they have a tab called taxation. To pay for all these plans, there will be lots of taxation. Apparently, they've been working on this for a while. And again, as you look at each one of them, you see the plan is to fulfill the UN Agenda 2030. If you go to the website is overwhelming. But to simplify these elaborate plans, they developed a 1.5-minute video. And it shows all the problems of the world. It's a quick video clip that buzzes through COVID-19 pandemic, racial demonstrations and riots in the streets of America, terrorism, pollution, disease, fires and hurricanes caused by global climate change, and then some Davos billionaire reaches over and hits the Great Reset button, and the world goes back to beautiful, natural, pristine state where the whole world is in harmony thanks to the brilliant leadership and innovation of the World Economic Forum. But to simplify it further, I wanted to refer you to the Hegelian dialectic. It was a 3-step movement: problem, reaction, solution. The World Economic Forum has been very involved in the problem. There's lots of circumstantial evidence that the World Economic Forum, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Johns Hopkins Michael Bloomberg School of Public Health, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, were very involved in the origins of this coronavirus problem. It also goes without saying that the billionaire bankers of the World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund are very involved in the problem of financing the trillions of dollars in debt that nations are spending to fight this virus. Right now, the national debt of the United States of America is $26 trillion and climbing. It even appears that the World Economic Forum might be involved in the racial problems we're experiencing in the United States and around the world. Take, for example, one of the organizations at the forefront of the racial unrest in America is Black Lives Matter. One of the Black Lives Matter co-founder, Patrisse Cullors, admitted that the group is led by trained Marxists. She says in her own words, "I think the first thing is we do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia Garza, who is one of her co-founders, in particular, are trained organizers." She explained this during an interview with Real News Now. She said, "We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on ideological theories." Just so you know, Black Lives Matter is also bigger than racism. If you'll go to their website, blacklivesmatter.com, and you'll see that they also advocate for the LGBTQ plus agenda and for the end of Western civilization in general and Christianity in particular. But that begs some questions, and that is, where did they get this Marxist training? I looked up Patrisse, and turns out she's not an oppressed black woman from the streets. She's actually a Fulbright scholar trained at the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA, in Marxist theory. Another question is, who is funding this movement, which has been advertised to us in the media as being a grassroots movement of oppressed black people? But if you go to blacklivesmatter.com, you will see that they are now calling themselves the Black Lives Matter Global Network. Well, how does grassroots all of a sudden have the money to go global? Where do they get the money to travel to large cities around the globe and live on the streets for days or weeks? How do they pay for food and shelter and T-shirts and posters and bricks to break windows and Molotov cocktails to burn buildings? Where do they get all that? There's a list of major companies giving hundreds of millions of dollars to support Black Lives Matters and other social justice organizations. Matter of fact, you find that by going to the World Economic Forum.org that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Some of these you're probably familiar with: PepsiCo, PayPal, Apple, Ginkgo Bioworks, Lego, yes, the toys, Lego, Hewlett-Packard, Verizon, Uber, Visa, Cisco, Merck, Nike, Cargill. But by far and away, the top donor was Bank of America pledged $1 billion to these organizations. I don't know, but that's a lot of bricks you can buy with $1 billion. But anyhow, they are heavily financed. So there are your problems. But as the World Economic Forum says, we do not see the pandemic, debt, and racial strife as problems. We see them as opportunities for a great global reset, to build a better world order, a greener, smarter, fairer world. And of course, what do we say happens after the problem? Reaction. There's got to be a reaction, and they got their anticipated reaction from us when we look out and we see the COVID-19 and we see the systematic racism in America and we see the mountain of debt, and of course our reaction is fear. Well, on June the 3rd, they unveiled their solution, and it's the Great Reset. But June the 3rd was only the intro. The big rollout is going to come at the Davos annual meeting. It normally happens in Switzerland in January of each year, January 2021. They're going to unveil this whole program and so. Of course, the long and short of this plan is that every nation will give up their independence, their liberty, and their sovereignty in order to be a participant in this one world government. And they intend for all this to happen in 2030, which is 10 years. Things are going to have to start happening pretty quickly. Now, while the rioting in our streets may look like America no longer has any power to stop it, you must remember that the rioting in the streets is being orchestrated by liberal organizations who are subsidized by powerful moneyed interests, both inside and outside of our government. Please remember that the news media where you get your news, whether you read it in the paper or watch it on TV or listen to conservative radio or see it on Twitter or Facebook or some other social media, all of our media is controlled and owned by about 6 corporations. All of their top leadership are globalists, Bilderbergs, or members of the World Economic Forum, or all of the above.